Right. Now we are back to our regular scheduled programming time at 3:30 p.m. Central, 2:30 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central. Woo, I might need another nap. Hey. So, we know if you were here this morning, we got booted off. Appeal was granted. Um, so, if the stream gets lost on TikTok, do keep in mind that each day this is also streamed on Substack and on YouTube. All links are in my bio. So if we get disconnected, because the app is a hater, um, you can always join there. Ah, a lot of news has happened since we last saw each other. First of all, Carolyn Levitt decided she was going to answer some questions on the current president's health because people have taken note of there's been some swelling in his legs and in his hands. There's a video circulating where someone had zoomed in on his hand and there's like a patch that's discolored on his hand. She's like, oh, it's fine. He's 80. He had some tests of full work, like the smoke and mirrors. They're not giving the full truth. Now, don't get me wrong. Did the Biden administration do the same thing regarding his health? Yes. And we have now learned that Biden didn't get all the checkups that Biden should have gotten when he was in office. Unfortunately, his health is now suffering due to that. Prayers to his family, and I wish him the best. But just like I said, when it came out that Biden wasn't being very forthcoming, I expect that of a president. I expect that of a world leader. Think about how many rumors over the years we've heard about Putin having cancer and he's about to die and all this stuff. They're not going to tell us the full extent, especially with all the shit that's being talked to other world leaders right now. They're not going to give us the full scope. And I'm not saying that I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a supporter of any politician, really. But historically, when it comes to U.S. presidents, we had a U.S. president that was incapacitated for a good year. And his wife was running things behind the scenes. We had a president that was hiding the fact that he was in a wheelchair. I'm not saying it's right, but it's on par for that office. It is very much so on par. It's just Carolyn Levitt tries too hard, and I need her to learn from the situation that's currently taking place with Pam Bondi. Roll back the lies, because there's going to be a lie that's going to bite you firmly in the ass, girl. It's going to chomp down right on that booty cheek because they're trying to lie to impress and cover for Trump. And Trump is the king of throwing a bitch under the bus. And this second administration, he has already shown that when something becomes unpopular, they're going to throw a woman's face in front of it and her name and let her be the scapegoat. You think I'm joking? When that period of time when Doge was getting unpopular with his base, they pulled the name of a woman who's worked in the on the health side of the administration since Obama. While she was on vacation, was like, yeah, she's the head of Doge. And she's like, I'm the head of what? There's something else popped up. And they were like, oh, with the Social Security Administration. And people were like, oh, I don't like that Trump. And they were like, oh, here's this lady. Problem is with this administration, they don't do their due diligence. And they pulled the name and likeness of a woman who's dead. Been dead. Don't nobody even care what shoes she got on in the casket at this point. So Carolyn Levitt, I'm not a friend of you, girl. I'm not a fan either. But I will roll back on the excessive lying for the sake of Trump because he's not about to have your back whatsoever. Now, last week we learned that TSA was rolling back its rules and regulations regarding people having to remove their shoes at airports. Well, Christy Nome, who is in charge of that, is saying that there might be some other changes on the horizon. This is coming from The Hill. Nome teases liquid size changes for TSA at Hill Nation Summit. Now, don't get me wrong. It would be great to have some changes regarding these things, but it seems like a lot of these decisions now are just made for their convenience, like they feel that it's inconvenient and they're really not running the numbers and seeing what's safe and what's not. Department of Homeland Security, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem teased Wednesday that changes could be coming to the size of liquid containers allowed for passengers boarding flights to the United States. Noem said such changes were one of the things that the Transportation Secretary Administration, TSA, which reports to Noem, is weighing. But I will tell you, I mean the liquids I'm questioning. So that may be the next big announcement is what size your liquids need to be. Noem told News Nation's host Blake Berman at the Hill Nation Summit. We're looking at, our scanners. Noem's comments came about a week after the DHS, which oversees the TSA, announced travelers flying domestically will be allowed to keep their shoes on while passing through TSA screening. Now that makes sense because I don't know if you all know why that rule was in place. There was one gentleman, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna blow some stuff up and try to put the explosives in his shoes. For the most part, we haven't had anything like that since then, so they rolled back that rule. But now she's like, oh, it is kind of annoying that you have to have these little bitty sizes. I'm really looking at that. With all the things that we really need the DHS secretary to look at, liquids on a plane isn't one of them. Yeah, we're getting nothing again. But she said, when Berman noted that change, there were cheers from the audience at the summit. Currently, liquids like juices, bottled water, and coffee, as well as aerosols, creams, gels, and paste, all under 3.4 ounces, are allowed in carry-on bags. Noem spoke about streamlining the experience for domestic travelers at airports, revealing that the DHS is in discussions with several companies about making it happen. What several companies? Like companies already sell travel sizes that are okay for travel, or to stick in your purse if you carry one, or if you like to have stuff in a tote bag. What several? Every time somebody asks her something that's crucial to her job, she comes up with something else to talk about and always follows it up, just like Trump would do. I'm talking to several companies. What? Okay. Can we get an updating to air traffic control facilities? Can we get proper staffing? Can we get any of that? Any little bit of it? Yeah, liquids. I believe she's going to handle that about as well as she handled the emergency response in Texas. Not very well. Now, we're going to come straight from my notes on this one. There is a lot of buzzing about the Epstein files. Now, one person who tends to always seem to have Trump's ear is Miss Laura Loomer. I don't know what she has over him, how she woos over him, but even she is disgruntled with the handling of the whole Epstein files situation. She has stated that the backlash from this could and probably would consume the Trump presidency. Trump is continuing to back Bondi and is still lashing out at his base. The DOJ is claiming that they are doing all that they can do. Trump has encouraged Bondi to release any credible information regarding the case. Now, did he quantify what he deems as credible? No, it's very vague, like most everything that's going on. And it seems like a way that if things don't go in favor of him, he could just blame Bondi. Trump also states that Bondi quickly briefed him on the matter. So it seems like he's already starting to throw her under the bus. Like, oh, I made this decision because she just really quickly came in here, gave me a little bit of information and kept it pushing. Okay. A special counsel has been requested for the matter. Now, Lauren Boebert has requested that Matt Gaetz be the special counsel to handle the files and the probing into why Bondi won't release it. But we all know that was quickly shut down because you can't have a pedophile investigating a pedophile. You cannot have a pedophile investigating a pedophile. Mike Johnson claims that they are for transparency while voting against the release of the files. Thomas Massie, a Republican, joined with Ro Khanna, a Democrat, to have a vote on the files being released within a week. But here's the thing. Yes, it would be in a week after they would be able to put their proposal on the floor for a vote. It would take up to 7 days in order for that process to happen. So if they are successful, then we could be looking at the files in 14 days. Fingers crossed, no delays. Now, a lot of people are talking about, well, on the campaign trail, he promised this, on the campaign trail, on the campaign trail, on the campaign trail. Here's the thing. I watched a lot of Trump campaign events. Oh, so many. Oh, so many. Trump really wasn't the one promising it. J.D. Vance promised it. And I'm still on the fence as to who J.D. Vance is truly loyal to. And Donnie Jr. promised it. When Trump was asked directly, go back and watch the footage, Trump hesitates. And he's like, well, yeah, I released it, but we have to consider the victims. There's a lot of sensitive information, like insinuating that if there was a release under his administration, it would be heavily redacted. And I think a lot of people wanted to hear what they wanted to hear from him. And Lord knows, I don't like defending Trump. I don't. But if we're going to criticize him for something, let's criticize him for something that he actually said. Let's criticize him for what he actually does. Let's not make up stuff to criticize the guy for. There's enough to go around. There's absolutely enough to go around. But continuously on the campaign trail, when he was doing interviews, he was like, oh, you have to be careful with the release of that. That's legitimately what he was saying. The ones that were really pushing it and propagating it were Vance, Donnie Jr., Bongino a little bit when he did make it out to the campaign trail, and definitely Kash Patel. Kash Patel made a career off of it. I don't think Teal has anything to do with this. I don't think people give Vance enough credit for being diabolical. I think a lot of times people look at Vance as another puppet. Vance is a puppeteer. He's not very good at it, but I think Vance took an opportunity to use Trump to increase his network, to boost up his resume, because ultimately I do believe that he wants to run for president. And if he can make Trump look bad and give the impression like, yeah, I had to save the country because, you know, as VP, I had to step in and do blah, 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 he'll do it. He will do it. Vance hovers around Capitol Hill like nobody I've ever seen. That man is always ready to break a tie. And he knows that most of these illogical, ill thought out issues and bills and pieces of legislation that Trump is trying to get his sycophants to push through is going to come down to a tiebreaker. It's going to come down to a tiebreaker because they don't have a hold on the Republican Party as people think. And I've said this before because MAGA themselves has said it on Truth Social. They're not the Republican Party. They're not Republican. A lot of them say they're MAGA and will tell you they're not Republican. Trump doesn't have a hold on legacy GOP. Now, we all know that Maureen Comey was fired yesterday. The timing is a little... Now, I know that Trump... People are like, well, Trump can't stand her dad, James Comey, as some people might call him Jim Comey. Very true. And two things can be true at once. But here's the thing. Trump has been waging a retaliatory war on Jim Comey for a while. If he wanted to get rid of Maureen Comey for the sake of her just being related to Jim Comey, he could have already done that. But let's really get into the nitty gritty because there's some things that people are truly missing. Now, James Comey is the one who notably leaked information during the first Trump administration to the press. Most of the information that he leaked were memos pertaining to his interactions with Trump during that time, showing how inept and corrupt Trump was. Now, Maureen Comey, the daughter, played a key role not only in the Epstein case, but the Ghislaine Maxwell case and the Diddy trial. The timing is curious given the Epstein file backlash. Trump has been actively trying to inconvenience and demonize James Comey, and this could possibly be a part of it. Her being fired now opens her up to talk to the press about her work at the DOJ, and it also opens her up to be able to legally write a tell-all book. This This was not a move to silence her. If you wanted to keep her silent, if you wanted to hide the bodies and keep everything hush hush, you would have kept her on the payroll. And the fact that Trump did not fire her, they're confirming this was all on the DOJ. And once again, there are a lot of diabolical people working in this administration. They are not a team. They are users using one another. So somebody is trying to save their neck. And it's like, you know what, if we put her out here, she come from a family of whistleblowers, maybe she'll blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. See, the thing about it is, with cases like this, it is best to keep, even if you can't stand a person, it's best to keep them on the payroll. I once did some contract work for a company, and there was one other contractor that was hired on. None of us could stand this person. But until all of the NDAs could be firmed down, all the copyright information could be done properly, all the patent information could be filed and everything else, we had to keep this person because the one contract that could keep them from running off with all our good hard work and selling it to somebody else meant that we had to keep working with them. Them firing her, she got loose lips that could sink the ship now. Legally, she's not obligated to be hush-hush. And this also allows her father to speak up more than he did before. Because remember, Jim Comey can't stand Trump at this point. Jim Comey been wanting to come at the jugular, especially since Trump has been coming for everything. This man's livelihood, his freedom, his reputation. But he's like, you know what? I have a daughter that, you know, where I'm not going to do, because y'all know how it is. You got that one family member. They may have got their dream job or whatever, and you're like, you know, I'm not gonna fuck this up for them. I'm not gonna fuck this up with them. They lose that job, they leave that job. You like, ha ha, meet me outside. I'm a refrigerator. Yeah, this was not a good move. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's strategic. It's strategic for someone in this administration, not Trump. Not Trump. If you're looking at it as, oh, Trump is in charge of everything like a dictator, oh, most horrific move ever. But that's not how it goes. If you're looking at it like, somebody at the DOJ wants this exposed, who can we get to do it? And on her way out, she wrote an email to her colleagues saying, hey, don't give up, continue to fight. She's not, if you notice, everybody that's being let go from the DOJ, they're not asking for a mass exodus because they know how detrimental that could be for the people at large. They're like, no, keep fighting. I would say, I truly believe somebody or somebody's has multiple copies of whatever is going on. Let us learn from all the other cases involving just Trump. Just Trump, people that you thought that they was like this. They had text message, voice recordings, emails, video record. Everybody that Trump gets close to starts keeping a dossier on him. They start keeping a dossier on him. And like I said, letting Maureen Comey go was a huge, no, that's somebody you hold on to. You hold on to them. Because now, she can hit the circuit and talk about everything. Could literally call her up. Is there a list? She tell you yay or nay. Was Bondi telling the truth about, like, you can ask her. And also, it was a bad move because they're forgetting that confirmation hearings are going on. And one of the most controversial confirmation hearings is regarding the federal judgeship for Emil Bovee. She's on the high profile cases, so she could give testimony regarding him. Now we're going to get to Emil Bovee and the whole incident with the Dems walking out. But first of all, Pam Bondi decided to visit Alctraz today because nothing says this administration thinks that this is musty TV than this shit. Every time something happens, they spend unnecessary funds to do shit that cannot go anywhere. But let's get into it. According to two administration officials, Pam Bondi will be visited alongside Doug Burgum, and Doug Burgum is the Interior Secretary, Alctraz prison. Now, Pam Bondi is over the prison systems. Burgum oversees the lands that the prison is on. Now, this trip is due to the administration still trying to move forward with the reopening of the former notorious prison island. The prison cannot be reopened without new legislation. A member of Congress may be able to present legislation that would declassify the site from being a national park. Yes, Alcatraz is currently listed as a national park. The prison has been shuttered for several decades and is now a site for tourism. It would be extremely expensive to reopen the prison for inmate habitation. This is several months after Trump posted that he wanted his administration to work on reopening it. It was a social media post. But do y'all know one of the major reasons why Alcatraz was closed in the first place? I know there's a lot of urban legends going on out there, and people. I even heard somebody say, "Well, people just started escaping left and right." No, it was a money pit. Even when it was up and running at its height, it was a money pit. It's not even like that. Trump is stuck in the 1980s. And he's all about the ratings. He's all about those ratings, Mm-hmm. But Alcatraz was one of the major reasons it was a money pit. At its prime, when it was up and running, they were complaining that they were having to pour so much money into it, it was no longer worth it. They have to ferry everything there. Nobody really wanted to work there. Think about how much you would have to pay someone to work there. And even if, let's say, they could modernize it, okay? Because it's all, like I said, it's already got national park status. So even if you go through all of the legal loopholes, and they're like, you can open it back up. To get everything up to code, criminals are different than they were back then. I don't know about you, but ain't no paycheck be worth me being stuck on an island with maximum security level inmates. Absolutely not. Because backup gonna come. But backup is going to be very slow. Okay? So, moreover, this trip was nothing more than messaging for the sake of propaganda and to try to distract the base that's going against and beefing with Trump right now to come to the other side and be like, oh, yeah. And you know how originally he was saying, oh, let's open it back up for immigrants. Right now, according to the DOJ and the White House, this would not be reopening Alcatraz for the sake of housing immigrants. It would just be willy-nilly criminals all up in there. Because I'd be pissed if I were to get arrested for petty theft and then I'm at Alcatraz. Oh, this bitch about to burn down. Oh, all this history going up in smoke. Absolutely not. Now, also, Jerome Powell. Trump has been beefing with Jerome Powell. Trump, and people are like, oh, he forgot that he nominated him. Trump doesn't nominate anybody. Trump gets a list. Trump gets people, and they're like, oh, Trump follows a script. He doesn't pay attention to it when things don't go his way because in his mind, he is Fredo from The Godfather, but he never finished watching the trilogy. So he has to blame everything on any and everybody else. Like I said earlier this morning, he is the poster child of white privilege. Avoidance of accountability at all costs and blame it on anybody else. Now, Trump continues to try to bully Powell into lowering interest rates to cover for his disastrous tariffs. And if you think I'm joking, why do you think they keep trying to tell you that tariffs are the greatest thing, that all the so-called experts were wrong and we pulled in this amount of money? Yes, we did pull in that amount of money. It did not decrease our deficit, and the money that we pulled in is from us. We had to pay more for shit that we can't live without. I want you to think about this. We're not even talking about like self-care stuff out on the... No, mandatory, you need it to survive. So, Powell's tenure does not end until 2026. Y'all know what year it is, right? Okay. There are a number of legal questions surrounding if Trump even has the authority to fire Powell. Powell has stated that he would not step aside for Trump. Now, the Fed chief, that's Powell's position, is independent and Trump cannot legally remove him. The best the administration could do is claim fraud, but that would result in multiple legal proceedings that would exceed the remaining term. At this point, Trump would need to just start looking for an upcoming replacement. Trump is in office after Powell's term is up. It's over in 2026. But, Trump's got to wait to the last minute because, once again, we still have ambassadorships that have not been filled because their confirmations have not even begun. The GOP has discussed amongst each other the negative impact that would result in the removal of Powell at this time. If Powell was to be removed right now, this would make the Fed chief subject to Trump and his advisors, and that would be disastrous. The Federal Reserve is currently on track to reduce interest rates by 0.5 point, most likely by September. Trump wants interest rates lowered by 3 points, which is utterly egregious and completely illogical. No one on the board would vote positively for a 3-point reduction. Trump's pushback on Powell can cause an increase through projections and changes by others in the realm of finance. And that, everybody who's like, oh, Trump's such a great businessman. No, the fuck he's not. I'm old enough to remember all them bankruptcies. I'm old enough to remember all them side hustles that he tried to go through. Only thing he is good at is being an online social media influencer. He is good at that. Now he's influencing rage bait, but he is good being a social media influencer. All of you boomers and silent generation types out there to think that you too old to be a social media influencer. No. You too could graduate from the Trump School of Social Media Influencing. Forget about a trad wife. Forget about a manly woodsman. No, you can be the rage bait king or queen of your neck of the social media woods. Join us now for classes and Trump social media influencing, because that's what he's great at. Right. But Trump does not realize that the way he's playing with tariffs and everything. Why are you here if you want to suck Trump's dick? How about you, with substantial information, tell me why you keep trying to suck his dick virtually? Anywho, like I was saying, if Trump was such the great business mind that he was, and if he had taken the time to learn anything from his financier friend, Jeffrey Epstein, he would understand that messing with tariffs the way that he is causing extreme fluctuations in the stock market. Projections regarding lenders are going to be not favorable to the consumer. And most notably, it's going to continue to shrink our economy. He's going to cause a collapse because in his mind, he's punishing other countries with these tariffs. Like when he told Putin, well, I'll give you 50 days to stop bombing them over there. And if you don't, 100% tariffs on you. So Putin just going to keep bombing them motherfuckers and you going to charge us for shit that we get from Russia? Watch me figure out everything that will have that tariff on it. I won't buy shit. And I'm going to tell all my friends. I'm going to put it everywhere that I can. Like, what the fuck? You're not punishing anybody, Trump. You're punishing us. And his goofy ass sycophants are like, yeah, do it, Trump. Do it. But these are the same people who bitched and complained about a piss poor economy, but did not have a problem taking out HELOCs and remortgaging their homes to buy Trump merch and go to Trump rallies. Them fucking Trump rallies haven't changed since 2016. What the fuck are y'all going back for? Trump cut up a suit and sold it. You like it, I love it, I guess. Now, moving on to the story of the afternoon, well, mid-morning, because that's about when it happened. Dems walked out on Senate confirmation of Emil Bovee for federal judgeship. Now, for full transparency and clarity, this was a hearing where there were multiple judgeships that were being voted on who was going to go through to the next round. This does not mean that as of now he is officially a federal judge. I've got it on over here. If there's another update, I haven't seen anything yet. But there were multiple. But when it came to Emil Bovey, they wanted time to, rightfully so, ask questions. Now, here's a little background on him. Now, some of these in my notes may be repeated because I was flipping through stuff, verifying stuff, and just putting the notes down. So if anything gets repeated, my apologies in advance, but better get to give y'all information 2 or 3 times than skip it by accident. Now, he was a senior Justice Department official, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. He participated in the firing of FBI and DOJ officials involved in January 6 investigations. He signed briefs relating to Mayor Eric Adams's indictment dismissal. And if you remember that, they wanted it dismissed in a way where they could bring back up the charges and prosecute him if he didn't do what they wanted him to do in regards to immigration. Y'all remember the infamous self-proclaimed border czar Tom Homan's quote, like, if you don't, I'll be back to prosecute your ass. And he allegedly told subordinates he would ignore court orders to execute President Trump's deportation plan. Now, why did the Democrats leave? First of all, I'm glad they let their balls drop. Today is a day of a whole lot of balls dropping. Mike Pence said release the Epstein files, that it's about time now. It's about to go down. This was due to the GOP not following the rules of the parliamentarian. The GOP would not hear questions from the Democrats. Even as Cory Booker was objecting to the rules, he was being ignored by the chairman, who was Senator Grassley. Senator Grassley tried to talk over him and continue the proceedings. The GOP is acting like there is an unprecedented urgency for the confirmation of specifically Bovey. The Dems are slow walking the nomination of Bovey due to information from whistleblowers. It was brought to light that Bovey was telling DOJ employees to ignore court rulings regarding deportations. There are rumors that when there is the next SCOTUS vacancy, Bovey will be nominated and presumably pushed through. Yeah, they're starting to look more long-term. Bovey is already an extremely controversial person just within the legal community. Republican lawyers contend that Bovey would be an eternal thorn in the side of everyone should he be confirmed. Let me repeat, these are Republican attorneys. GOP attorneys believe that Bovey is a horrendous choice. There is a ton of evidence contending that Bovey should not be nominated. Bovey was involved in the dismissal of charges against Eric Adams, the New York City mayor, and that dismissal of charges also led to a number of resignations within the DOJ. The committee did advance the list of nominees that were before them without the Democrats present. As a prosecutor, Bovey was accused of failing to disclose evidence. The Democrats want the whistleblower heard before a vote on his confirmation. A judge once had Bovey apologize to a jury after the judge felt that he misled the jury while questioning a witness the day prior. Bovey has a long history of questionable legal behavior. A letter of rejection for Bovey's nomination was signed by 900 plus former DOJ lawyers. And before anybody goes, well, of course, the liberals, the libtard judges don't want him there. These judges these lawyers, former DOJ lawyers, include lawyers who served under Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. So yes, even judges that served, I don't know why I keep saying judges, even DOJ attorneys who served under Trump say that Bovey is a poor choice. Bovey has had a number of controversial views that colleagues have deemed worrisome. There are members of the GOP that have voiced concerns about the nomination of Bovey. This is what the New York Times had to say about Bovey. This is a direct quote. At the age of 44, damn. He does not look 40. Okay, sorry. At the age of 44, Mr. Bovey has never written anything of consequence or even apparently expressed any views on the central issue of constitutional law. That in itself is not unprecedented for a lower court nominee. But what does distinguish Mr. Bovee is his record of edge advocacy and loyalty to Mr. Trump. And keep in mind, Bovee was also a part of the team that resulted in Trump's 34 felony convictions. Because I was wondering why Trump chose a former prosecutor to join his team. The Senate GOP may not have enough votes. Because like I said, there are people in the GOP that are not filling his confirmation. They don't want him to go through. But also in the list of people being voted their way through today, Jeanine Pirro. And a lot of people have forgotten that she was nominated for a judgeship as well. Yeah. And Jeanine is just sitting there like, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be sitting over here while you take another heat over there.
Which I think is the great quote of this.
So, yeah. Now, one story we started to get into earlier today, and then we got cut off, so I didn't want to continue it with only part of the audience since I forgot to tell everybody at the beginning. And let me say it one more time. If ever we get cut off again because people are haters, in my bio, it's always simulcast also on YouTube and on Substack, so you can link in there and pick up. But since I did not make that clear this morning, my bad. So let's continue on with Ghislaine Maxwell's family declares Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator didn't receive a fair trial as disgraced financiers' files remain unreleased. Ghislaine Maxwell's family finally broke their silence about her involvement with Jeffrey Epstein after the DOJ urged the court on Monday, July 14, to prohibit her case from being reviewed during a 20-year prison sentence. Our sister Ghislaine did not receive a fair trial. The fuck she didn't. She's white. She's rich. She got a fair trial. If anybody don't get a fair trial, her ass gonna get her Casparilla, the not so friendly bitchy ghost, got a fair fucking trial. Girl. Her legal team continues to fight her case in the courts and will file its reply in short order to the government's opposition in the U.S. Supreme Court. The statement read, yeah, she didn't think because she's white and the default damsel in distress that she was going to get the consequences that she got. Her international socialite ass probably thought that she was going to have a little fine to pay and do a little community service. If necessary, in due course, they will also file a writ of habeas corpus in the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York. This allows her to challenge her imprisonment on the basis of new evidence, such as the government misconduct that would have likely changed the trial's outcome, the statement continued. There's nothing. There was no mishandling, and the outcome wouldn't have changed. I do not know why people think that additional incriminating evidence would have this bitch walking out. They're acting as if the Epstein files are a great eraser of things. If it was exonerating information in these files, everybody would have voted to have them released. It would be front page news on everything. New podcasts would pop up, dissecting every 3 words, every episode until there was no words left. Lord have mercy. Now keep in mind, she was convicted in 2021. Maxwell is currently incarcerated at the Federal Corrections Institution, FCI, Tallahassee in Florida. She was convicted in 2021 on 5 of 6 counts, including conspiracy, sex trafficking of a minor, and transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. The 63-year-old's fight to overturn her conviction is partly due to a co-conspirator clause in Epstein's 2007 non-prosecution agreement with federal prosecutors in Florida. Here's the thing. That's an agreement that he signed in 2007. But let's get into it. The co-conspirator clause stated, Epstein successfully fulfills all the terms and conditions of this agreement. The United States also agrees that it will not institute any criminal charges against any potential co-conspirators of Epstein. 4 of Epstein's female assistants were covered in the case. However, Maxwell was not. Because the scope of that co-conspirator thing, she far exceeded that. She far exceeded that. And sweetheart, that's not exoneration. That's you're guilty. You just don't want consequences. And he didn't fulfill the shit. He died. He killed himself. He sent himself to the lower deck. Like, the fuck? The only stir that she could make with the files, or if we get her files released. Because that's what everybody keeps forgetting. Everybody's focused on the Epstein file. There's Maxwell files too. She was doing shit on her own. There's documented witness testimony that's already been made public that not only was she was the ultimate groomer. Like, she was teaching these girls sexual acts. She was recruiting them. She was paying them. Keep in mind, she was an international socialite. She came from money. Her money was long. Yeah, she doesn't fall within the co-conspirator clause. I mean, in technical, like, if you want to talk to people like in layman's terms, yeah, she was a co-conspirator. But no, they had 2 very distinct cases. They were both egregious monsters and predators. She can't say she's a co-conspirator. No, she wasn't a co-conspirator. She was basically a fucking mastermind. But keep in mind, here's the thing. The clause said, if Epstein successfully fulfills all the terms and conditions of this agreement, the United States also agrees that it will not institute any criminal charges. He did. Maxwell's attorneys filed a petition to SCOTUS in April to address her conviction, saying, despite the existence of a non-prosecution agreement promising in plain language that the United States would not prosecute any co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, the United States, in fact, prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell as a co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein. But was that the case, though? The most recent statement from Maxwell's family also included a memo from David Oscar Marcus, who serves as her counsel of record in her petition to SCOTUS. I'd be surprised if President Donald Trump knew his lawyers were asking the Supreme Court to let the government break a deal, Marcus wrote. He's the ultimate deal maker, and I'm sure he'd agree that when the United States gives its word, it should keep it. And I want to bring up the story because a lot of people are like, ooh, she's going to testify in Congress and she's going to bring Trump down. That's why he's going to partner. No. It sounds good. It's salacious. It would make some great blurbs, and it would be great for clip farming for some sycophant, egoistic politicians on Capitol Hill. But they're arguing that he's a deal maker. He doesn't want this deal to be broken. Bitch, you had your trial. If that was the case, why did you argue this before? Because you know that at the end of the day, you were a mastermind. You were a mastermind. Well, he couldn't complete everything if he died. He didn't give full testimony. He didn't turn over like he died. And I don't think Epstein, see, a lot of people think when people get caught up in certain things that they're being killed or that they killed themselves to cover for somebody else if they didn't want to get. No, I don't think y'all give people credit enough for being horrific human beings. Sometimes people don't want to face the music and tell you just the shit that they did. They don't want to say all the egregious things that they did. Most of the time, it has nothing to do with anybody else. They're not trying to cover for anybody else because in systems like this, where people have money, we're not talking about the motherfuckers who get busted on Law and Order SVU by Benson and Tutuola, okay? We're not talking about the Blockbuster employees and the Costco general managers. No, you talk about people who got money. You think that they don't have, what, did y'all not learn anything from the Diddy trial? Did y'all not learn anything from the Diddy trial? Did y'all not learn anything from the previous Trump trial? They keep files on one another. Death don't mean shit. You kill 20 of the motherfuckers. They got the files. That's why I tell people I need you to think about some of these conspiracy theories that they come up with. Because what did Epstein stop? It's not like he was sitting at home, killed himself, and set it up so the house would burn down with all these files in it. Him being dead didn't take the files away. Let me repeat it. Him being dead didn't take the files away. So who the fuck was going to kill him? They already had the evidence and information because he was already in custody preparing for prosecution. This isn't the beginning of an investigation where they're just keeping an eye on him and asking people about it. What is the point of killing somebody at the point where we got all the information? And before you go, well, Taz, what about JFK? They didn't have all the information. That's why it's still a mystery to this day. With Epstein, who was he covering for? They had it all. So the Maxwell family statement comes just days after the DOJ announced there were no Epstein files to be released to the public, despite years of speculation. Had there been documented evidence proving she had no involvement as a key role in the sex trafficking scheme, the alleged co-conspirator's conviction could have looked different. Here's the thing. And this is why I say they're not arguing about the files and why they were released or not released. She can play dumb all she wants. And like I said, everybody's so concerned about the Epstein files. Y'all forget who was the ringleader, who was the general manager. That was Ghislaine Maxwell. You want to know who's truly egregious? Just like y'all said during the whole surviving R. Kelly, you do realize that there had to be some parents involved in this. I hate to bring it to you, but you do realize some parents had to be involved. They're at this woman's house. They're traveling. Their children are coming home traumatized and they're still sending them back. There were some parents that y'all worried about the files from the wrong people. Yes. The files of who Epstein was hanging out with, very much egregious. But there is a reason why nobody is batting an eye when it comes to telling Ghislaine, no, bitch, you ain't never getting out of prison. The real nitty gritty is in her files, the Maxwell files. Where the girls came from, who was liking the girls. Remember, she was the one that was teaching the girls who liked what. So who do you think has the information? Whose files do you think would be more critical? And folks going to talk about protect her. They're going to try to take her out next. For what? The trial happened. All the information is collected and under lock and key. I'm going to need y'all to stop thinking that somebody going to take somebody out the game after the secret is told. If I tell you, hey, don't tell this secret, it could be detrimental. What the fuck is the point of me taking you out the game if you already told the secret in detail? Right, she was the ringleader. She can't, like we say co-conspirator when we're talking to one another, because outside of legalese, it's easier for us to digest. But this bitch, yeah. Like he had his shit going on, but she had the operation over here. Let us not forget that the young lady who unfortunately took her own life, let her continue to rest in power, said Ghislaine taught her to suck dick the way this person wanted her to suck dick. Like, y'all want to find out who the creeps are? Fuck an Epstein file. Ask for the Maxwell files. That's why nobody talks about the Maxwell files. You know that KFC uses 11 herbs and spices. You don't go there going, I know I'm really curious about what the 11 herbs and spices are, but what's that biscuit recipe? The Epstein files are the biscuit recipe. Y'all sitting here saying you want to get to the bottom of it. You want this done. Protect the children. We need to drain the swamp of pedophiles. That's in the Maxwell files. And I truly think that her current attorney is putting two and two together, and it's like, yeah, we might want to keep these files tied up in court. I know they keep telling you no. You think your parents, your sister, somebody like put in just do a few interviews. Like we need to keep these shits tied up in court, because as long as they're tied up in court, they can't be released. Like as long as they're tied up in court, they can't be released, because those are ongoing proceedings. But how many times? That's why I keep saying, and people keep getting mad when I say stuff. I'm not saying, well, okay, sometimes I do say stuff just for the fact of saying stuff. That's not being funny. But when I'm being serious, stop worrying about fucking Epstein. Killing him covered for nobody. Killing him covered for nobody. There's a multitude of reasons why certain prosecutions may not be happening right now. Because this isn't like the state level, like, oh, the state can take over and do X, Y, and Z. If victims are like, no, he can just pay me $100,000 and just please keep him away from me. And if y'all make any changes regarding this case, please notify me. But I don't want to go through this again. And you have to realize, because how this country is set up, and we have had very, very high profile assault cases. I still remember, because Monica Lewinsky, devious as hell, but she was made a victim 2 times over. Linda Tripp was no hero. That was devious as fuck. And Linda Tripp thought that she was going to make a name off of that girl's sorrow. And now, I don't even know where Linda Tripp is. Maybe she work at a Bojangles. I don't know. But think about all these women who have come up. Like, look at what people did to Anita Hill. Do you think that these victims want to do anything? And multiple victims have already taken their lives. Then yes, I would love to see prosecutions, but we would have to get very creative in the event of prosecuting without having the victim there to testify. Big time victim shame. And hell, I've been a victim of it. I live in a Commonwealth that you cannot get information or pick up a police report if your name is not on the police report. Even down to, there was one time, there was an incident that involved my son, but because his name was not, he couldn't get it. I have people on this app going, yeah, I called the police station down there and they told me this, that, and the other, and she's lying and blah, 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 blah. First of all, none of you happen to know my full legal name, number one. Number two, they also decided to reach out to someone who they thought was the perpetrator, which got real interesting real quick, because to confirm it, they gave information about me. It's ridiculous. Yes, you do, honey bunches, but you ain't about to be running around here telling people. Thank y'all. So silly. But yeah, like I said, everybody's so worried about the Epstein files. You want to know who the pedophiles are? 1, start listening to women, children, and femme-presenting individuals. 2, ask about the Maxwell files. Ask about the person who was going out and getting these girls. Ask about the person who was able to teach girls how to perform sex acts in a way that was likable to these men. So she had to deal with the girls and the men or women that they were dealing them to. But we're not going to talk about the Maxwell files, because I remember Ghislaine Maxwell spending a whole lot of time with Ivanka Trump. Because everyone's like, well, Epstein is so egregious. Absolutely. Absolutely he was. But do you know how much time and the conversations you have to have with somebody to know how they'd like to get down with the get down, to teach somebody else how to get down with the get down with them? And see, these young ladies were missing days of school. See, I remember all of the original testimony and how they were leaking certain stuff. There were girls missing school. They were gone from home for days. They were out at industry parties to the wee hours of the morning. Because that's how Kevin Spacey got caught up. The minor had a curfew and the minor missed the curfew. And that minor's parents or guardians, can't remember which, was like, oh, hold up, time out. What the fuck you mean? But you got to realize when you open the Pandora's box, you got to be ready for all of the content. All of them. All of them. And I'm going to drop something on y'all that you might not be ready to have this conversation. But you may have to reconcile with the fact that there may not have been more prosecutions, because there is a part of sex trafficking and molestation that we don't talk about. And that's children who groom children. Because there were girls who admitted that they brought their friends in. And they may be looking at it as, you know what, you were a victim. You thought that this was the way that things go. Because most notably, Miss Lauren Palmer, you all know her professionally as Keke Palmer, stated in her recent autobiography that it took her a while to realize that she was sexually molested by a fellow minor. And that's why I said, if we're going to open this box, open it all the way. And we have to be prepared that this network, because after the FOIA release the other night, these files are far more extensive than what we originally thought. We have to be prepared that they were more egregious than Matt Gaetz in using children. Because remember, Matt Gaetz used children to get at other children. Yeah, like an MLM. And I'm saying this, people have been around for a while. Those that know me, I've always been a historian, but I brought the news and brought historical context along with it way back since the infancy of Facebook. But I go through a lot of court transcripts. I sit through a lot of things. And I'm going to tell you, when you're asking for things, yes, you want the transparency, but prepare yourself for what transparency looks like. I've read some things that I wish I could unread. I've seen some images I wish that I could unsee. One of the contributing factors to my sporadic insomnia. So, as you're asking for things, because just like I told y'all, when it got to a certain point, I love y'all, but I had to back away from my own mental health. Because that motherfucker right there. So, yeah. So, I know. You did very well when I talked about him all this time. I appreciate you. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. I will see you all in the morning once again. One more time. Because there's still some backlash from DOJ firing Maureen Comey. Still got to figure out what's going to end up going on with Emil Bovey, because this has to go back to the parliamentarian because rules were broken. So we don't know if this first vote is going to be rescinded before they can go to the next level of voting. SCOTUS is still working on its shadow docket and so much more. And that's why I was going for my notes, because I typed out notes that I was going to send to Thomas to go over, because my concept of time is all over with. I knew he had a funeral to go to, and he had told me the date, but I'm not good at remembering dates. So we'll see you then. As far as the YouTube podcast tonight, your girl is tired. Your girl is very, 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 very tired. I will let y'all know around 8 p.m. Eastern if I'm still going to be able to do the podcast tonight. I'm going to get something to eat and rest and see how that goes. But as always, thank you for joining. And each one teach one, each one reach one. Y'all go out and be good. Once again, thanks for joining me.